Господин Билио, добре дојдовте во Сител, ви благодарам што сте со нас.
Фала за поканата и фала до гледачите.
Господин Билио, рано утрото се вративте од Грција, бевте на прославата во Вчарани, во Егејска Македонија. Какви се впечатоците? Како поминавте таму?
Last night was amazing. Despite all the things that have happened in Егејска Macedonia over the last century, you still have Macedonians, maybe not Macedonians like we are here in the Republic of Macedonia, but they're still Macedonians nonetheless, with a Greek ethos, just as I am a Macedonian with an American ethos, or a Canadian ethos, or a European ethos, or an Australian ethos. To listen to the songs, to listen to the dances, to see how excited everybody was to dance, to sing, and to do all those things was. I've been waiting for that moment for a long time, to be at an игранка in Егејска, and it was amazing.
Верувам дека убаво сте поминале таму. Имавте ли можност да разговарате со македонците таму? Што велат тие? Какви се нивните права денеска во овој дел од Грција?
A little bit, not as much as I would have wanted. But, talking, and I'd asked somebody last evening, how after all this time, how have you still kept your Macedonian identity? And he said it was hard. We did see some people there that, are looking for maybe more help, whether through the UMD or through other organizations to be able to stay more connected to their Macedonian roots and heritage. But it wasn't as in-depth as maybe as it needs to be. But again, these are the beginning starts of having a larger discussion with them and how we can help the minorities, whether they be in Greece, whether they be in Bulgaria, whether they be in Albania, or wherever they may be around the world.
Ги споменавте и во другите земји. Каква е ситуацијата во Бугарија, во Албанија?
It's not good, right? The pressure that the Macedonians have, whether again they're in Bulgaria, Albania, wherever it may be, but they need our representatives from the Republic of Macedonia to continue to be more involved, and not only from the Republic of Macedonia, again from a government standpoint, but also from us from a diaspora standpoint, whether that's the UMD or other organizations, to be able to help a little bit more, because it's not easy for them. Right after, we're talking about 120 years of persecution. Sometimes, in a harder way, in a more difficult way. Again, my father is an Aegean Macedonian from Kostursko. He was not able to return to his village. The first time he returned was after 49 years because of the pressures, right? So it's not only from those of us in the diaspora that want to return to see, the roots, but also again from them that are still there. They're still persecuted in a certain way, right? When we entered into Greece yesterday at the border, they knew where we were going. They asked, we said we're going for coffee. We're not going to tell them we're going to the Igranka. There is still a pressure there, whether it's on us coming into the country, or whether it's for those that are still there. There's a pressure upon them not to be Macedonian, despite maybe it's gotten a little bit easier over the last maybe 10 or 15, 20 years, but there's still a pressure there. So again, there's more that needs to continue to be doing. That's why we had the forum on minority rights last year in Solun and the year before in Solun, and we'll continue to do those kind of things.
Да, но еве успеваат и после толков притисок и после толку години да го зачуваат македонското и традицијата која што ја наследила. Морам да ве прашам во однос на односите со Бугарија. Вие како организација го осудивте бришењето на македонскиот јазик и македонскиот идентитет од извештајот на Европскиот парламент за Македонија. Меѓутоа, како гледате на она што се случува со Бугарија и притисокот кој што Бугарија го прави врз Македонија во европските институции?
Again, it's a little bit easier for me to answer from the Greek perspective, right? Because my father is an Aegeans. But again, it's the same sort of pressure. And the question that I always raise in my own head is, why do we have these, why do we continue to sign these agreements, these friendship agreements and all these other things, and we fulfill our part, and yet the Bulgarians, the Greeks, all these other parties continue to do whatever they want to do. It's one of the, how do I feel about it? It angers me. Right, well, koi vexme, that these kind of things are still happening in Europe, right? And where is the European Union? Where are these other organizations that say they're for human rights? And they see what's happening in Macedonia, and yet nobody does anything about it. It's very frustrating. And it's an unfortunate reality that we as Macedonians have faced not only in the last 100 years, but will continue to face unless some of these organizations really stand up for the values that they say that they stand up for.
Ајде некако ова да го поврземе со диаспората. На гласањето за ово извештај во Европскиот парламент најгласна беше европретеничката Јовева, таа од Словенија, меѓутоа имам потекло од Македонија, исто како вас. На македонски јазик во Европскиот парламент им порача на соседите дека не ни треба дозвола од нив за да постоиме. Колку ни се важни ваквите луѓе во институциите во Европа, но и низ светот?
No, they're incredibly important. We need more people to be, from the diaspora, to be in organizations like that, whether that's, again, in the European Parliament, whether that's in the U.S. Congress, whether it's wherever it may be, right around the world. We need more people to be involved in politics that want to, it's very challenging to make differences from the outside. We have to be inside, right? There's a thing that I often say, if we're not at the table, we're on the menu. And listen, I am not one for politics. I realize that, or for advocacy, that is not my priority necessarily, maybe not priority, but that is not my strength within the UMD or OMADA. My strength is more from a cultural standpoint, but I also understand that these kind of things are necessary for us to accomplish what we want to accomplish for Macedonians, well, again, whether they're in the diaspora, whether they're in the Republic, or whether they're in the minorities outside of the Republic of Macedonia.
Но и вие како ОМА да правите нешто слично, да ги вклучите македонците по потекло, да бидат дел од институциите во САД?
Correct.
Посебно во Конгресот на Соединетите Американски држави. Зашто се работи? Каква програма е тоа?
Again, since our inception, 20 years ago, and again, we started as it was a few Macedonians in Washington, D.C. We went to a coffee shop to get organized, right? Because we didn't feel that we had adequate representation in Washington, D.C., whether from the Republic standpoint or just in general. And again, Macedonians have been in the diaspora, specifically in America, for 120, 130, 140 years. And yet only in the last 15 years have we had a congressional caucus for Macedonians. Yet we've been in the diaspora, we've been in America for that long of a period of time. Again, we need friends at the highest levels. And that's what we at the UMD have been trying to do, right, is to build those relationships with congressmen, with senators, with other people. For instance, my congressman in Fort Wayne, or in my district in Indiana, he's now a senator from the state of Indiana. When he first became a congressman, I met him, again, at a Starbucks for coffee. He had no idea that there were 10,000 Macedonians in Fort Wayne. He is now a senator, right? And now he understands that there's 40,000 Macedonians in Indiana. Mm-hmm. Those are the things that we need to do. Again, they don't know. How would they know if we don't tell them that we're there? Right? We can bring them to the church. We can do this. We can do those things. But it's very important that we make sure that they're aware that we're here, and that our votes are as important as anybody else's vote.
Колку сте гласни во споредба со диаспората која што доаѓа од Грција, од Бугарија, од Албанија? Се слушали гласот на македонците во САД?
Па верувам дека се слуша. Again, can it be louder? Can we have a stronger voice? Absolutely. Right? Do we need to continue working harder and doing more? Absolutely. But again, pre-UMD, pre-OMADA, there wasn't a voice, or certainly not a collective voice. At least today there's a voice, maybe not as loud as it needs to be or as strong as it needs to be, but we're working to continue to improve that.
Една од главните причини поради која што дојдовте ова лето во Македонија е една веќе ајде да речеме традиција која што ја воспоставивте за донирање на медицинска опрема во болниците во Македонија. Овој пат тоа беше болницата во Кавадарци, ако не грешам, околу $500,000 вредна медицинска опрема. За што станува збор? Како се спроведува оваа програма?
Listen, I'll answer that in a more general question in the sense that it's very easy. As soon as you land in Macedonia, you can see all the problems. But who's going to work on fixing, to find a solution for some of the problems, right? We can't fix everything. That's impossible. But can we find little solutions to little, and it's those small, consistent actions in aggregate that help bring results. The $500,000 donation that we made to the hospital, especially in that region, is significant, is huge. Is it going to change everything for everybody? Of course not. But can we make those little consistent actions to help in a certain way, right? The year before was in Bitola, the year before that was in Skopje, this year was in Kavadarci. We'll continue to do those things we don't just want to have empty words, we want there to be results to our actions. I don't need more pictures with politicians. That's not what I'm looking for. In the 3 weeks that I've been here, I've had 4 days off. This is my vacation. And that's okay, right? I am trying to make a difference for Macedonians, not only in the Republic, but also for those of us in the diaspora. Can I by myself make those differences? Of course not. Because we as an organization make those differences by ourselves? Of course not. We need help from everybody to do that. But it's not enough for me just to say, right, да се чукам на градите, дека сум горд Македонец, but I don't do anything, right? Those are the little things that we're trying to do and will continue to do to help in our own little way.
И сега ги споменавте проблемите, дека ги гледате кога ќе дојдете во Македонија. Според вас, кои се клучните проблеми со кои што се соочува Македонија и на што треба да работи?
There are many. Again, I think the biggest issue that I see from my perspective is still corruption. You have the government working on foreign direct investments, FDI. But yet, it's hard to get investors from the West to come into our pazar and say, but then everything has to be under the table, right? And there are certain places within Europe, right, or within the world that maybe understand that game. But in the West, that is not something that we want to accept or want to play with, right? Because as soon as they come here, then another government comes into play, and they're going to say, well, I need X amount. I think that, for me, is the biggest problem that I see. Again, there are hundreds of problems. And again, it's easy to look at those problems and to see them, but again, who's going to do something to try to help fix them? And again, I think in our own little way, as a reasonably small organization, we're trying to do our part to help.
Ви благодарам многу за гостувањето во темата.